Today we have Sai Swarupa Garu, a celebrated author, with us. Namaste, Andy. So it's so nice to
Namaste.
have you here. In the interest of everyone, let me give a little bit of an intro about you. So, Sai Swarupa Garu is a celebrated author of five best-selling novels, known for her compelling portrayals of ancient Indian women protagonists. A recipient of this prestigious Three Shakti Award for her contribution to Indian literature, she also mentors aspiring writers and curates for Indica Books. With a passion for Mahabharata, Indic history, and philosophy, Sai Swarupa Garu champions the celebration of Indian civilization through creative storytelling. An IIT Kharagpur MBA and a gold medalist in Carnatic music from TTD, she brings a unique blend of scholarship and artistry to her work. Sai Swarupa Garu, it's a privilege to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was a very flattering introduction and welcome, Andy. And I'm really enthusiastic to meet your audience. And I've been following. I think Samvada has gets brings a unique angle of culture in this whole conversations. And yes, excited to be here.
Thank you. To get started, you have kind of had a journey where I believe you went from engineering background and a management background into literature. So, could you share a little bit about your journey into being an author and now an academic? Like, did you have a literary background? How did
Hmm.
that come about?
Okay, it's I think the answer has various components to it.
Okay.
When you say engineering, I think it's a rite of passage from students of my state, Andhra Pradesh. So
Right.
I think we are just allowed to think only after we are armed with a BE or a BTech degree. After that,
Absolutely.
so that's the mainstream. Just travel the. But that cynicism aside, I think engineering has a way of molding. A solutionist mindset, right?
Right.
So then interesting that you asked me about literary background or something. So though I am not personally, from a literary background, my mother, she is from a very literary background. She is an MA English literature with
Mm.
a lot of very strong likes and what's a strong affinity towards writings of Sri Aurobindo. She used to read up literature from Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmaya Mission, and my family is deeply rooted in the fraternity of Sri Satya Sai organization.
Hmm.
So there is a lot. There has been a lot of grounding in civilizational aspects. So, and that's kind of a immersive grounding, right? You
Okay.
just don't know how things take root and grow. So it's just a part of. Only after I stepped out of my home for my higher education and career, I just realized how much granted I took whatever was I grew up with and the value of them, right? So storytelling almost has been a part of my life because I am the eldest cousin in my generation.
Mm.
So whenever the family used to meet up for festivals or weddings or something, so I was expected to keep the younger kids away from
Entertained.
yes, by entertaining them with stories and things like that. And my cousins were quite curious. They used to ask questions which I would not really actually ask my parents or grandparents. And then I was forced to come up with some or the other changes within the story, and it just grew like that. And of course, you know how academics takes over lives, and those family meetings
Right.
stopped happening with the same frequency. And but the storyteller in me was restless. uh, I could successfully control that restlessness in the interest of academics for a while, but I don't think it stayed buried too long. So uh, there was also some conversations that I had with friends, which kind of told me how the knowledge of Indic cosmos, right, from our Itihasa Puranas, everything that knowledge has, it's not as widespread as I thought it was,
Hmm.
given the background. So that's where I realized that storytelling has to really, I mean, the more storytellers we have in the genre, the better it is. The more stories reach the more people, the better it is. So that's how it started.
Right. So, in like in this particular genre, right? Was there a specific interest? You did talk about the background, but then was there a particular moment when you knew you wanted to bring a woman, like forgotten women from Indian history, into spotlight, or specifically like Indian historical events or figures? Was there a specific point where you realized that okay, this needs particular attention?
Not exactly. I mean, my focus was not exactly on the gender of the protagonist, though it turned
Okay.
out to be that way.
Right.
Uh, the first story was Abhaya, which is based on the Narakasura Vadha incident
Hmm.
from Bhagavatam. So the
Hmm.
same incident is there in Bhagavatam, in Vishnu Purana, in a very different version in the Mahabharata itself, and then the Shakta Puranas, the Shakta texts have their own versions of Narakasura Vadha, where
Right. Right.
it's totally different. And South Indians, we believe in the other version of Satyabhama killing
Right.
Narakasura, right?
Narakasura. Yeah.
It was so the, I mean, I've told people a lot of times this particular small incident where one of the conversations I had with a Muslim friend of mine, she was basically asking why does Krishna have so many women, and
Hmm.
questions like that. I was telling her the story, and that was another one of those eureka moments for me, which told me that these stories need to be told with, to a larger audience. So started writing, and something in that conversation spurred me to uh, develop this perspective of one of those women rescued by Krishna in, after he killed Narakasura. And I just thought it was a fantasy. I just hoped it would go away, but it didn't. And then I started writing, and in the I think some time down the line, where I've had finished my PG and had started my first job, that's where a friend suggested me to read Krishna Avatara by K. Munshiji. He's the founder
Hmm.
of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. So that was one of the books that changed my way of looking at the Itihasa Puranas. So Munshiji, he portrayed creative liberty in such a positive way, right? And before that, I had come across a couple of fictional works based on the Mahabharata. Uh, and I could see that the writers have taken creative liberty, but it really felt so negative and so gloomy, and and I know that this is not what I grew up with, right? So I used to have a very negative opinion of that whole genre, of the literary genre surrounding the Itihasa, because of the, I don't know, whatever the approach of the writers, or so I just used to stay away from them. And then there were a lot of changes. Even as I was wading through the writing waters, there were a lot of changes. Amish Tripathi happened, Ashwin Sanghi happened, and a lot many writers. So it's not like I think that there was a positive change around this genre, right? And yes, my first book happened to be a feminine lens. It happened to have a feminine lens, and especially when it had a Shakta lens to it,
Hmm.
right? The feminine was very, very important. And as I started developing the story, I think newer story ideas came to me, which were also, feminine oriented. Like, for example, in Abhaya, we had a scene of, the protagonist is just a 6 or 7 year old girl, a motherless girl. So the father's being both parents to her. One of the scenes, he was trying to feed her food and trying to tell her stories. So this story is based in the Mahabharata times. and I had to search for what kind of story would he tell in the Mahabharata times to inspire
Right.
a daughter. So it has to be a warrior woman, which who predated the Mahabharata times.
Right.
So I started searching, and then I stumbled upon the story of Vishpala.
Vishpal. Mm.
So Vishpala is the queen who lost her leg in a battle, and Ashwini Kumaras fitted her a metal leg, and that sounded like a great story, and
Right.
nobody was talking about it, right? This I'm talking about 2013ish, 13,
Right.
14ish. So and I couldn't why are we not talking about this great story, right? So Avishi, which is a reimagination of Vishpala, became my second book,
Mm.
and things build up. Then my publisher got in touch with me, and they were of the opinion that even popular characters like Draupadi, Rukmini also needed a
Mm.
fresh perspective than the same old victim perspective that was being built over time, and things like that. So story after story, it just built up.
Okay, great. So you did mention about Munshiji and the creative aspect, right? So how difficult? So you mentioned the research that you did, like when you had to get a certain perspective or an angle, you have to go back and research. I'm sure, like even to gain content, like get an understanding, you still like, although having a knowledge about this, you still have to go back and dig and get. So a little bit about the research process, and also how critical is it while writing creative fiction to balance it with the historical accuracy, especially when it relates to
Yes.
scriptures.
Yes. So I have a personal process, so it may not be, it may not be the process of other writers, and it may not be
Well,
the process that everybody likes. But
I mean, I've asked
uh,
this to so many people, and I believe,
yes,
like
yes,
I've read about like Stephen King and the authors. Like I think
mm,
many authors like have their own personal,
yes, yes.
right? So it's not like one set. Um,
So I would say, I think you are from Hyderabad, right?
right,
Maybe
right.
you would have traveled through the highway between Hyderabad and Bangalore.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know
So
every pothole
yes.
there. Like I can map it like at the back of my hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's this beautiful highway. That's, I think, metaphorically, let's assume that to be the scripture. And
Mhm.
then there are deviations and bypasses and
Right.
slight uh, some interesting things that we discover when we go slightly off the highway,
Right.
right? And it adds to the experience, depending
Right.
upon where we are taking off. It adds to the experience. I think there is Lepakshi, there is Guti Fort, there is
Yeah.
a
Gadwal
lot of
Fort
lovely
and
places.
Alampur and so many things. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think those that by-lane traveling is what a storyteller needs to do, but not all the while we should not lose the sight of the highway,
Okay.
right? So I keep the plot. So there is a larger plot which
Right.
sticks to the scripture, and then there are certain backstage backscene moments with respect to the scripture which I try to reimagine, right? So for
Okay.
example, in Rukmini there is a scene of Draupadi Swayamvara. Now we all know the grand spectacle of Draupadi Swayamvara from the epic Mahabharata itself, and
Right.
Vedavyasa has given a very grand. Now what could have happened the evening before, right? It's not exactly.
Right.
No, we know the Pandava side of it, we don't know the Draupadi side of it. The guests would have started coming, and obviously Krishna and family would have had a evening with Draupadi's family, and there would have been some exchanges and
Right.
some way of moving the story and building the character. So I think my characters get built up during those moments, which also adds its own bit of novelty. Whereas, and I try not to negate or go against the what is written in scriptures, except it's, yeah, when it's really really needed or something like that. I think it should not be done as a storyteller. And when we are trying to uh, uh, so we are all here because of Veda Vyasa. So nothing much can be achieved by negating what he said. So I think it's a bit of gratitude that we owe him. He is the guru. In the Guru Parampara also he is there. So I think just have that in mind and feel free to explore. At the core of it, I feel it. It's like me spending time with those people of Mahabharata, people of Bhagavatam, uh, like pretending I'm their family or something,
Okay.
right? Having
Right.
access to some intimate moments and
Right. So you kind of like take the plot and like see where there could be some creative gaps that you could
yes,
extrapolate and kind of
exactly.
fill. So actually, in between there was a power outage, so
Oh,
I kind of reconnected. So it's okay. We'll just continue.
sure, sure.
So I'd like to jump a little ahead. So with the in the interest of time, so I don't know how long we have, but in the writing process, um, now lot is changing.
Yes. Ouch. Okay. Is it recording?